By the end of today's episode, you'll know how to use humor in your submissions notes to stand out right away without sounding cheesy or unprofessional. Welcome to the Actor's Career Compass, where we help aspiring screen actors find high-quality auditions, sign with great agents, and book major roles in legit productions. I'm your host, Martin Benson, and today I'll be covering why humor works psychologically with casting directors and indie filmmakers, when it can actually backfire, and how to write a funny submissions note in under 3 sentences. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I am coming to you from our brand new studio. This is our CEO office set, which is why I don't look like I fit in, because I'm not some executive and I'm not really wearing a suit and tie, even though this background kind of seems almost too fancy for the way I'm dressed today. But we do shoot high-end professional reels for actors. If you visit cinematicstudios.com, that's SCENEMATIC, so like Scene, Cinematic Studios. You can check out our packages and set up a shoot for yourself if you're in the tri-state area or you want to travel to us here. Now, before we jump into today's podcast episode, if you are watching on YouTube, why don't you pause the video for just a moment and tell me, have you ever tried being funny in a submissions note before? What did you say? And if so, how did it work out? I'll personally respond to as many comments as I can. All right, let me ask you something. When casting directors are scrolling through 300 submissions, do you think they're excited or tired? Well, especially if you're not one of the first submissions in their list, they're probably tired. And they're probably a bit overwhelmed, and they're probably scanning things very fast. Now imagine this, right? They're skimming through names, looking at brief submissions notes, just kind of skimming past them, and suddenly they smile a bit, and then they start to laugh. Even just a small exhale through the nose, like a little. You just changed their emotional state. That's really big. And emotion, well, that creates memory. So if you can make them feel something positive, you're actually going to increase your odds of getting invited to an audition. Now, some actors try to do this a bit too hard, okay? They write stand-up comedy, like paragraphs of it, or they try to write a complicated joke that people just don't get, right? And then it just comes off as like weird or confusing, or like, what is the person trying to do? Your joke should not try to be hilarious. It should just be light, like something very subtle and quick. The first thing, though, to keep in mind is that you want to match the role's tone, right? Is it a comedy? Well, of course, if it's a comedy, you have a lot more freedom. It is a serious drama, though, very sad film about loss. Well, maybe you don't want to make some crazy joke, or at least not a joke about loss, right? Especially if it seems like something that's personal to the director. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. And now, in terms of the joke itself, you just want to keep it to like 1 or 2 short lines, ideally as close to 1 sentence as possible. But here's a couple of examples, right? So one would be, last time I played a detective, I let the suspect go because they were using a calculator. Their story added up. It's just stupid, but it does capture someone's attention. Like, wait, what? And then they're like, oh, dumb. It's short. It's relevant to the role, and it's somewhat funny, okay? Now, here's another example for, let's say, a police officer role, okay? I don't have real handcuffs, but I look damn intimidating on camera, if I do say so myself. Okay, again, it's not about being super funny, like trying to be a comedian, and just about being a little bit funny to kind of jolt the casting director or like indie filmmaker, whoever's reviewing these submissions, out of their like mindless scroll and bored or tiredness, right? The nice thing is that you can reuse the same joke lots of times for that same kind of role, right? So if you see more detective roles with other filmmakers and casting directors who are posting them, just reuse the same line, right? They probably wouldn't have heard it yet. Now, last thing is to just remember to end your joke submission note with professionalism. Okay, so after the joke, you want to include at least one professional statement, like happy to self-tape within 24 hours if requested. This is going to clean it up to make sure that you don't look too crazy or out there, right? You don't want to just randomly have some joke without any context. Now, remember, if the humor that you're trying to use feels forced or dumb or like you're trying too hard, don't worry about it. This is just another little tactic that you can test out from time to time. You don't have to include a joke with every single submission. Again, I definitely, though, recommend testing. I've done a whole podcast episode on testing and its importance. Just test this out for yourself and see if it works and see if you enjoy it, okay? It often can work, especially with indie filmmakers and sometimes even casting directors for bigger productions. You might at least get a self-tape invite. Thanks for listening today. Now, if you want to dive even deeper on writing submissions notes that actually get auditions, I highly recommend checking out a podcast episode I did called 3 Key Elements That Every Acting Submissions Note Needs to Get for Auditions. And that's episode 154. I dive deep on the exact structure and psychology behind submissions notes so you can confidently stand out without overthinking it. Okay, check it out again. It's episode number 154. 3 key elements that every acting submissions note needs to get auditions. And it's on the Actor's Career Compass. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.